Choosing a shaman, ayahuasca ceremony, or retreat center is a big decision, and it's important to ask the right questions. It'll help you gauge whether a place or person is taking your best interest into account and supporting you on your journey, or whether they may be engaged in some shady practices. Unfortunately, there's a lot of ayahuasca centers engaged in shady practices these days, especially in ayahuasca tourism hotspots like the Amazon. And even outside of the Amazon, there are plenty of risks with ayahuasca circles being run by people who are not really working in integrity and may be caught up in their ego or in other sorts of spiritual narcissism or bypassing. There's a lot of abuse and manipulation in the ayahuasca world. This is an unfortunate result of the fact that plant medicines are illegal in most places and elsewhere quite widely unregulated. And this sets up the opportunity for toxic power structures without oversight. And it sets up the opportunity for people to be taken advantage of and manipulated. Not to mention that the perceived mystical nature of plant medicines and shamanism really plays into the hands of the deceitful. Unfortunately, there have been far too many instances of sexual abuse in ayahuasca circles. That's why it's so important, before you choose to sit in ceremony with someone, to ask some questions and to feel out the type of person that they are. There are plenty of people in the Amazon and abroad who are claiming to be shamans or healers without any actual experience. But a few simple questions can go a long ways towards unveiling their disguise. Here's some questions to ask your ayahuasca ceremony leader or your retreat facilitator or organizer. One easy question to ask would be, how long have you been working with ayahuasca? In what capacity, and what sort of training or formal qualifications do you have? If you're choosing to sit in a retreat center or a more organized ayahuasca circle, it might be worth asking the same about the support staff as well. Are there people on hand with first aid training or with some kind of therapy or psychotherapy designation? Is there integration support before, during, or after the retreat? These questions reveal the professional qualifications of the center or the people that you're choosing to sit with. Even though the ayahuasca world is largely unregulated without always having formal qualifications or proof of valid training and experience, it's important to ensure that shamans and retreat centers are taking seriously the level of trauma, emotional processing, and transformation that the ayahuasca experience can open. Nowadays, some retreat centers are getting ahead of the curve, so to speak, by ensuring that there are a broad range of trusted and qualified supports for participants attending their retreat centers or circles, and making sure that their staff are trained in trauma sensitivity or are resourced with other relevant facilitation skills. There are a lot of very talented, very experienced, and very educated people operating in this space with really good hearts, and those are the people we should be seeking out to sit with. Whether we're sitting in a traditional setting or whether we're sitting in circles anywhere else around the globe, it's important to ask them about what their approach to journeying with ayahuasca is, to get a bit of context on the tradition they've studied in, or about their practice and how it's developed, and how they do the work that they do. This could also help you get a sense of what a ceremony with them actually looks and feels like. And this is good information to know because different ayahuasca ceremonies are going to be run differently, in the same way that each indigenous tribe who works with ayahuasca has their own practices and their own way of ceremony with the medicine. A ceremony with the Shipibo will be very different than sitting with a Pai of the Kashinawa. And both of these might be very different than, for example, sitting in a New Age ceremony or in an ayahuasca church like the Santo Daime. It could be really helpful to ask them, what does it look like when things go wrong in ceremony or when people are having a really hard time? And how do you or your staff respond to that type of situation? This will be helpful to know if you're going to get the support that you need or if people around you are going to get the support that they need and what that help would actually look like. That way all of you can have a safer and more beneficial experience. In some group ceremonies, people can have really big releases, and this can be loud and cathartic, or it can sometimes even be frightening and intimidating. Knowing if these sorts of things are common in a particular person's ceremony will help inform you to make a choice about the setting that's going to be best for you and your personal needs. If you're okay with that type of thing and you're able to be in that space and provide energetic support to them without it bothering your process, then that's great. Deep healing happens when people come together and support each other in ceremony. But if what you really need is something more sensitive and perhaps more private, then a setting like that might not be good for you, and finding a smaller group setting might be more suited. So asking these questions is going to help figure that out. On that note, it would be good to ask how many people are going to be sitting in the ceremonies. Will there be any people from outside of the group? Sometimes in ceremonies in the Amazon, there will occasionally be family members of the healers or other community members joining the ceremony. And knowing if this is common in advance will help people to feel safe and comfortable. It might be worth asking about their ethical practices of working with ayahuasca as well, in the sense of where they source their medicine and who makes it. This is a great way to see if they have ongoing ties with the people with whom they source their medicine from, if they grow their own, and also just to get an idea of what kind of medicine it is. You want to ask what plants are actually in the medicine so that you can go home and research those ingredients for yourself. Make sure that there isn't going to be any unexpected surprises. And definitely ask if they offer any preparation guidelines, as well as information on any diet and medication restrictions. This is something that they will likely provide you right away, and if they don't provide detailed guidelines, then they might not be taking your well-being very seriously. Asking questions is your opportunity to really feel out who these people are before putting yourself into a really vulnerable state of sitting in an ayahuasca ceremony with them. Remember, ayahuasca greatly increases our suggestibility, and so it's important that our setting cultivates a therapeutic container. I hope this helps. And whenever you meet with a potential ceremony leader or a retreat organizer, don't be afraid to grill them with questions. It's your time to get to know them. It's your safety, and it's your experience. If you found this helpful, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And if you've got a good question to add to the list, share it in the comments so everyone can benefit.